Hello everyone, this is Vicky. We have some technical difficulty. Hopefully everyone can hear me and see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. For those of you that are familiar with WaveNet, TideNet, the screen may look like, pretty much similar to what you have seen before, but in reality there are a lot of changes that happen in this 2017. First of all, we moved from Google, basically Google Maps, to Esri. Because of our utilization rate was too high, and Google wanted to charge me basically $31,000 a month type of thing. So I had no choice at that point. DoD was basically doing a global contract, with the Esri. So I submitted justification and got under that system. So now, basically, we have moved to the Esri world, and everything basically, even though it may look similar, but it's a different type of, basically GIS system. That requires a lot of code changes and so on, things that were working basically with the Google world, had to be redone and adopted, to the Esri world. Other than that, code changes, everything, is transparent to you. If you're familiar with the system and you have gone through a series of basically technical notes, user guide that I have, written about this, pretty much everything else stays the same. It's just the engines, basically the instructions, the scripts, the codes basically that Leroy and I have, written and to do operations, they may have changed, but those are transparent to you. So pretty much, basically, I'm going to go through the system as it is right now. The other thing that's happening in the GIS world and web-based systems is Python. Python system that we started with basically was Python 1, and now basically everything has moved to Python 3. Not many people, are familiar with it. I haven't released the Python 3 version of this, so in testing, and because it basically, uses, some different libraries and so on, and we need to do testing before we can release, basically to the user community. So everything that basically you're going to see is what's the latest. At the top of the screen, you see the web address 140.194.113/WaveNet_dev. In the previous version, there was also the older version of the system without dev_dev. And they were, basically different a little bit. I didn't go back and change basically without dev. Dev is the latest, development version of the basically system. And just basically this weekend I replaced the old one also with the latest one. So old one becomes almost like in my backup in case something screwed up, let's say in the _dev version. I always can go back and get my original one, from the without _dev. But if you use it, I recommend you use, _dev version of it, because daily, whenever, users, report problems, this is where fixes are made, that's incorporated to that, I don't go back and update, without dev version, basically, that often. So stick with the WaveNet_dev and TideNet_dev. Okay. Let's start with the WaveNet. As you can see on the right-hand side, the data sources include NDVC, WIS, CDIP, GLOS, GLCFS, WaveWash 3. And the two bottom one, basically WINS only, were not available in the previous versions of the WaveNet TideNet. Those are new features. And there basically we provide WINS also from two different sources, NDVC and NOS. Okay? These were added, based on the user's, request and suggestions. Starting with the NDVC. So if you click that, basically, you saw a bunch of, buoys, NDVC buoys showing up. I limit basically the screen display to, let's say about, 100, buoys or points of interest. So if you, zoom into a screen, you will see other buoys that, basically are not, in the first screen. That's how the concept works, okay? So I'm going to select, let's say, 41004, someone that basically recently was working on this buoy near South Carolina. And so as soon as I selected that, you have two options, by the way, here. And again, this is for everyone that's familiar. You already know that, and technical notes, provided the details. Top option is access basically the buoy data automatically in WaveNet. The other one is the station. We provide this so that you can go back to the source, what's out there. So if I click this, it will go back and tell, basically what's out there, what the data source is. And you can get, basic information, from the source if you know how to, okay? So I'm going to select, the access. And at the bottom right here, it tells you what station was selected and start time and end time. So I'm just going to basically take the default values and see what it does, okay? What data is available. Now, recently, NOAA's budget was also, had changed by the Congress. So they're going through some transformation, and if you go to their websites that you're familiar with, their file formats that you're familiar with, they may not work. They have farmed out and reduced basically the workforce and other things, and so we have to basically adopt, whatever the latest, they have. And I have been working with them and made appropriate changes, and the data basically that is here is the latest and the greatest, that's basically available right now. A lot of their work is contracted out, and because of the budget cuts and so on, and still, basically going through transformation. So just because, you're familiar, you have some codes that basically used to run on certain, let's say, source data. It could be source 1, 2, 3, whatever, If it doesn't work, be aware that, that something has changed. It may change, the file formats, the data structure may have changed, and other things, security issues, you may not be even able to download the data. So after I clicked the retrieve plot data, you saw here on the screen red and blue basic time series. We adopted the basic convention of red color, with the winds, and blue color with the waves. Okay, you will be seeing that that's carried out, through the system. Okay, and at the bottom here, these are the basically computational engine or processes, tabular data, plots, roses, histograms, statistics, and spectral output. So whenever you click this, basically there are, codes or scripts, in the background that are being run, and you can thank basically for a lot of this, to Liu Lin, and spent a lot of time, and Jay Rosati and Derek Wilson, basically that were instrumental in building the system, basically. So, so I'm going to click the tabular data. As soon as I click that, notice that at the bottom, it created a file called text file of the wave data and time. So if you double click on that file, the file will be open in a viewer. Okay, that's a CSV file. Those of you that are using IE, the default will be Excel, but other, basic browser, may use, different things. You can use any browser, a text editor that, you want to assign, basically to open, such files. Okay? I'm trying to see why it's not displaying the file. There you go. Okay. So the file format basically is, classical text format, columnar data. the purpose of this is so that you can take this and cut and paste into SMS, generating your own spectra and so on. So it has, basically a data ID depending on the source. This first source was NDVC. So we assigned a ID of 0 to NDVC. Next one may be ID of 1. Next one will be ID of 2, and so on. So each data source has a ID that we carry with it. And then the year, month, day, hours, wave height, peak period, average, basically, period, and peak wave direction, wind speed, and wind direction. Okay? All of that basically is here. You can save this file to your directory and operate it if you like, and do your own analysis, whatever you need to do basically later. So, but it's a CSV file, so now you got the data for that time period that you specified. Okay? So, next is the plots. In the plots, double click and this is the plot basically for the wave height, peak period, and wave direction. Notice that it's in blue color, and the convention that basically we use, is the left hand side, basically tells you what it is, and time basically at the x-axis. Same thing for the wind speed. And it's in red color, and again, wind speed and wind direction information, you have it right there, okay? Histograms, if you click that, you're going to get wave height roses. Again, whatever view that you have, in your machine, it can be opened with any kind of, basically package. You can assign this, and on my machine, apparently, photos, basically is the default, and histograms. There are a couple of different types of histograms that we generate based on the user's suggestion and recommendations. One of them is percent occurrence versus, wave direction. The other one is the wave height versus direction, and wave height versus percent occurrences. So 3 plots basically into, one. But again, once, you have this data, you can do whatever you want. It's up to you completely. If you're using IE, some of these processes will be different, and it's based on the basic function of the browser. So you may not to have double click. You can click the file, and it still automatically opens, for instance, Firefox and that kind of thing, which I use. Okay. So, and again, you see basically that this is the, it tells what buoy, basically where information is coming from, and the start and end time is listed on this. You can take this and save this and put it in your reports or documents, whatever you need to. Let me go to wind, and same thing with the wind roses, okay? And similar basically histograms as well, for the wind as well. Now let's go to statistics and see what we get there, okay? Statistics have monthly wind wave input, wind and wave, based height, wave percent occurrence tables, and then a height period joint probability scatter plots and the contour plots. Starting with this, notice that, this is just a table, and you can cut it and paste it, or we also generate basically a CSV version of this so that you can save it. So this is basically, I selected just only a month, from October, right through November, and tells you basically the number of wave counts, in the record, the significant wave height, maximum wave height, peak period, mean period, and wave direction, wind counts, as well as the wind speed and wind direction. And then at the bottom, basically, it gives, for the entire record. Okay? As far as percent occurrence tables go, these are basically similar to with what you get, from WIS, depending on, the browser text editor that, you're using, it will appear different. In this machine, basically, Word file looks like it. I usually use, Notepad++, or FGI editor or some other, basically tools. But percent occurrences are similar to WIS. So every 22.5 degree sector, basically, it will give you, tables, for those. And at the bottom of it, we provide, details on a monthly basis, annual basis, all the statistics that you may need. And a lot of time reports, basically do call for those, so those are added to the bottom of that file. High period joint probability, these are the static curves that, we use a lot, especially in actual design and so on. It's a basically scatter plot of significant wave height and versus, peak period. And again, all of these are plots that, you can save and put in your report. The next plot, is going to be a contour plot of what you saw, and just right there. And this is based on the percent occurrence, converted to that significant wave height versus, peak period, and plot, that expressed in contour plots. You can see the density, the color of it tells you, basically the where the most of the wave energy is coming in, what frequency and what wave height. Going to the spectral output. This is probably most used in terms of the numerical modeling capabilities. Here you can generate basically spectral input file for the CMS wave, and other models, basically can be added as long as, the file format, is specified. Right now we provide, for CMS wave, and all version of the ST wave basically use the same thing. And so here you need to provide, your grid orientation. If you don't know what grid orientation, is recommended, just click this button on the right-hand side. This buoy is on the East Coast. For East Coast, basically it says that this is the main wave propagation direction, so it's going to be the wave going to 180 degrees, okay? And so I'm going to put about 180 here, but whatever your grid is, you created that in SMS, so if, let's say that it's 120 degrees, then put 120 degrees. That's basically, specified, in your SMS file for that particular model. We need to know what the grid, that water depth is at the grid, incident wave boundary is. And this buoy is at 38 meter approximately, so I'm going to put, let's say, 20 meter, let's say my grid is at. And so you can generate ENG files that go with this, CMS wave and ST wave, either for 3-hour basic conditions or 1-hour conditions, okay? And you can do that by, based on the parameterized, analyzing the data, or you can use measure spectra, okay, and to construct your ENG file. Again, this is measure spectra thing is brand new, and you didn't have that in previous documents, but now more data sources are going to provide, there's a two-dimensional, wave spectra, and few of them that provide currently, basically we already figured out how to download, their massive data. These are huge files. I'll show you, basically when you select this, even though it's a month data, it will take a little bit of time for us to download the data, analyze the data, and then construct, generate a ENG file that goes with the particular model. First, I'm going to generate this. Here you have different frequencies. You can set 30, 40, or 42 frequency basically in bins, and we give you basically the option for that as well. And if you click generate spectra, then bingo, it runs a bunch of codes run in the background. And first you generate ENG file. ENG file, some of you are familiar with it. So there's a standard file, basically for TMS wave and ST wave, and it tells you at the top, basically the frequency bin and direction bin information, and then followed by the energy density as shown, right here. Okay? So the grid boundary file is sometimes useful, and some users that basically are going to need this, to provide this to the SMS. This is a columnar data. You can bring it into Excel, cut and paste, basically into SMS, the columns of it that, the SMS, will need, okay? If you want to generate your own spectra in SMS, we provide basically parameters, that you need to supply, to SMS. SMS will generate a similar, basically ENG file that we're doing here on the fly. But some user, may, prefer to do that, or they download the data from here and then basically go there and later generate their ENG file and so on. Okay, this one is just a log file for our records, basically. I usually keep what was done so that I can remember, otherwise later I don't know what I did, okay? So it's a log file. So that's essentially basically what the user needs to do irrespective of the data source. That's basically how it's going to work, okay? If I want to, let's say, switch to a different data source, let's do that. For instance, you want to do width, click width. You got width stations, and again, the number of displays are limited to, let's say, about 100 or so per screen or whatever, but if you click, you will get more and more sections, so you can populate what I'm saying and select, just because your station doesn't show up, just zoom into what I'm saying, to the area. So let me see, CIRP, same thing. So now all the CIRP stations, basically are here. Oh, by the way, I don't want to forget, Hawaii. Hawaii is part of the basically system as well. And same thing, Alaska, obviously. And if there is any buoys anywhere else in the world, okay, and that's part of the CIRP, and again, basically Pacific, and we have all of those as well. So let me see. When you change the data set, I recommend resetting the map, although you could basically check and uncheck, and go there, because sometimes you may get an error, it doesn't reset. And that's a lot of times is function of basically how the web systems, work, and we have to handshake, with the data sources, and sometimes, they don't recognize that, manually you made a change. That's why we put a reset map, here, to ensure, basically that doesn't happen, okay? So next I'm going to go to GLOS. This is the Great Lakes, observation system for Great Lakes districts, basically. So GLOS provides mostly, the wind, in all of the lakes. So you can go there and select any of these basically stations, let's say right there, and see if you have any data basically, available. Sometimes the data may not be available there. Then you go here and select, some time frame, let's say 2015, in November 1, and your start time, now notice that I automatically set it to 1 month, basically, ahead of it. In some of the data sources, we do that. Some of them, you have to manually set, because we do some checks when user selects it on the availability of data. If we don't have the information, we cannot reset it sometimes. That's why for some data sources, manual reset, may be necessary. okay? But essentially, GLS provides the wind. Again, red color, you know there's the wind information, and you can do basically tabular data again, create a CSV file for you there, plots, there, rows diagram, and similar to basically what we went through, with the NDDC, okay? Similar thing. Spectral output is worth to mention here. Some users requested that they want to run the model with winds only, okay? Winds only input. And that's the purpose, basically. So you can get it and generate ENG file with winds only without any waves, if that's basically what your intention is. And again, you still have to do, basically grid orientation, water depth, and then generate the, basically ENG file. There's no such thing as, measure 2D spectra, this or whatever, This is not a wave data, this is a wind, so I don't have that option here, okay? So I'm going to reset and then go to GLCFS. GLCFS is Great Lakes Forecasting System. So in any of the lakes, we can basically go there and let's say our current pledge is site somewhere, let's say Ashtabula Harbor, and if I click there's a destination and then I can go get whatever wave information may be available there. And again, you can set your time or just select whatever default time, whether data is available or not, we'll find out but it did show that both the wind and wave data basically is available at that location, okay? The GLCFS is basically generated using wave wash tree. It's very reliable, very accurate, and you can trust it, and you can get also NOAA buoys, and it's basically seeded buoys as well, in this station, in this location, or any Great Lakes location. So that's GLCFS for the two data sources specific to the Great Lakes. Let's go to wave wash tree. Wave wash tree obviously global, and so I'm going to create something maybe somewhere off the coast of maybe entrance to San Francisco, and let's see what we have there, okay? And again, I'm going to select the default, but you can set any time period you want, and bingo. And then we fetch basically the data for that 1 month period, and again do what I did with the NDDC, tabular data and so on and that kind of thing. So that kind of basically tells you what WaveNet is about. And again, at the bottom we added those two wind sources because requests were made, and some users wanted to get wind data that's available from the NAS stations, okay, or wind only basically details from some of the NDDC sites as well, okay, that are not part of the NDDC basically system. And so all the wind and wave information basically now is available to you pretty much basically in the WaveNet. Now before I move to TideNet, and does this give you a feel as general sense as what this system is about, what kind of information it provides and what you can do with it? And again, once you download your data, if you have specific tools, capabilities that you or your service providers, AE firms, universities basically have their own codes, want to operate on that data, they can do that. All you have to do is just provide basically the text file, CSV file, and run your own codes, basically if you don't like, or something is not, in the WaveNet that that you prefer to do. Any questions?
Seki, I have a question. This is Allison Wellington.
Yes.
For WaveNet, when you're creating the spectra input files that you'll use for either CMS or SMS, do you have the option for, I think you showed a half plane example, do you also have the option to do full plane spectral input files?
No. The answer is no. Each model calls for a different type of input. Okay, that's where the model-specific input basically files, needs to be generated. So if someone says that I want, full plane, this or whatever, then I need to know, what that file format is in order for me to generate it. I have the information. I generate basically based on, let's say, for CMS and ST wave in a half plane, basically input right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? By the way, if any of you have any questions, please feel free, to send, basically your questions to me, to Liwa Lin, and to Tanya Beck, basically our program manager, CIRP program manager, and we would love to hear from you. Any comments, any suggestions, any requests basically are welcome. I'm retiring basically at the end of the month, but I'll remain as emeritus, but those two people at least, will be in charge and will address, your needs, immediately. So.
This is Jessica. Can I ask you a question?
Sure. It will cost you $1 million.
Okay. I got it. Put it on my tab. I have one question for you and one question, I think, for Tanya. The question for you is in WaveNet. In the ENG file, there's that parameter that you can put in if you're doing a coupled model with like a circulation model to input the tide level at the different time steps. Is there a way to pull tide data and get that parameter in there? Is the question for you. And the question for Tanya are these tools being coordinated with the WIS team? I know that we talked around this time last year and Bob Denson and Kai were talking to Becky about maybe incorporating some of the tools he's already put here for WIS, and I'm just wondering if you guys are coordinating on that.
Well, that's where that 3 hour, 1 hour type of time interval comes in. So you can change that to anything to be, okay? But it requires, data sampling and this or whatever. It's not trivial, in other words, if you want to do that kind of coupling based on specific, time interval, right? That's dictated by the, combined, hydro wave modeling, transport modeling. All those can be done. The intent of basically WaveNet is to provide the basic, information for wave, alone, type of, modeling. But if there are some other requirements, absolutely, you can write up, basically those kind of requests and send it to Dewa and Tanya, and they can be looked at it, basically how best to go about incorporating those into the system.
Okay, thanks.
Tanya, I don't know whether she's on the line or not, but, basically, I think that she would need, some statement of needs in order for her to justify, an effort, along those lines, and making sure that it is something that, a common need, common interest, for many users instead of just one and so on. So the program managers basically are trying to follow some basic guidelines based on the ROD recommendations, the ranking of the statement of needs and so on. But request put in that form, I'm sure that, Tanya will entertain those, to the best of her capabilities. So, okay, that pretty much I want to say about, basically WaveNet. I quickly want to go to TideNet. At the top right here in the menu, just basically instead of going, you can do two ways. You can go here and instead of basically typing, instead of WaveNet _dev, you can say TideNet _dev, and it automatically will go to that. Okay, just go hit enter, and bingo. Or you could have done basically, you click, I'm not in TideNet, okay? When I was in the WaveNet, just click here, WaveNet, I will go back to WaveNet or TideNet, vice versa, okay? So the two systems, TideNet is Tide, okay? But the two new things that are added are at the bottom, currents and NSAP, basically winds, global winds. These are brand new. And The data sources come from CIRP database, Le Provol, French, and NAS, and TPXO, OSU, okay? Le Provol and TPXO basically are global, okay? And again, a lot of this work was done not just basically only by, CIRP, but, when I was working in the military, I really needed data in many different parts of the world, not just the United States. And that's why basically we looked at a system like that, they can provide, basically support to also military applications. Le Provol and TPXO will come very, very handy for you, for that. CIRP is limited only to the U.S. coast, as you know. Concept identical pretty much, to WaveNet. And in fact, a lot of tools, technology is shared, libraries are shared, scripts, this, except the data sources are different. So, and that's why basically it's taking, years, basically to develop a system like that. So if you go click, let's say, CIRP, and suppose that, you're somewhere, basically in you select a location, at the bottom basically pull the, what the lat longitude or the coordinates is, and give you basically some default time, and you can basically, get water level occurrence, from the CIRP database. So I'm going to select the default, and here we go. It's a typical title record, and again, you can basically use this. Oh, by the way, I didn't show these sliders, at the bottom. You can basically zoom into any of this, analyze signal, characteristics. And if you move your cursor here, I will tell you, at least the system will tell you what exactly time, date, hour, and magnitude of the thing is, and so on. So it comes very handy sometimes. Click the tabular data, and again, what is that? It says didn't find the file. Oh, that's brand new to me. This file, I have to look at it. This file is a file format that's basically specific to SMS, but again, the data seems to be missing. Let me go select a different time. Maybe the data is suspect there. Is either something wrong in the code, or so I'm going to do 1 June, and let me see if I can just get 1 month data, see. Okay, something wrong with my CIRP database, the way that I handle it. Let me move to the next one, Le Provol, and see if I have a better luck with that. No data at that particular location, it says. Oh, I didn't click anywhere, that's why. Okay. Okay, the title record is shown right here. Tabular data is there, and let's see if we don't get 404 error. 404 error is also related to the network problem, and sometimes you will get this, and sometimes basically you will not get that. Okay, so if there is a data communication, there's a data loaded. Apparently, it's right here, but for some reason you may not be able to display the data. Let's look at the data is there. It's not basically written either to the file, properly because of the network stuff, or something happened during the write to it, but it is there because here is the plot of the basically data, as you can see. So it created that. So at the bottom you have tabular data, time plot, the constituent information. Again, this will generate all the constituents that you will need, to run, your basic circulation models. So you can take this and then basically input in your SMS, right? To set up basically your SIRP, ADH, whatever, you know, and CMS, you know, to basically run, you know, those models. Histograms should give you a plot of, you know, basically tide histogram, water level, number of occurrences, and of that, and statistics. Again, provide, you know, some information that, you know, you will need basically based on that particular start and end time that you selected at that particular location, standard deviation of the tide, mean value maximum, at what time it occurs, at what, you know, dates and so on, and that kind of basically information. So this is the same thing basically for all other data sources, okay? For NUTS, then you come here, you take, you know, any of the NUTS stations. Do we have anything here? Let's go to Hawaii, let's say. And there you go. So, you know, I just selected default basically in the last, you know, 10 days or so of the data. And so the time series of the, you know, water level is there. You can look at the tabular data. Again, that's something that comes on my screen. You don't need to worry about. It's a different program basically is asking me something. And again, looks like when I write to this text file, I'm having some problem. I need to check that. You know, it's either network or it's me, but I'll get back to that. Water level must be there because the plot I generated apparently for some reason is to display that, you know, is not working. Constituent report, similar thing, okay? So here you have basically 36, you know, constituents, you know, all of them, you know, are right here. If there is enough data, detailed data, you know, we can provide, you know, almost all the constituents, you know, there is the code run that we run, you know, we'll do all of that. But if there's not information enough, you know, basically, and then we cannot generate that. Histogram, similar thing to what you saw in the other one. And statistics, likewise, you know, like the previous one. So all the data sources are very similar. Once, you know, you do this, you know, with one of them, you can repeat it and apply same concept, you know, for that. Now, for the currents and NSEP winds, this is still in the works. We're populating this. You will see, for instance, we added, you know, some stations. Some of this comes from the NOAA's, you know, ports, you know, basic program and so on and that kind of thing. So we're trying to populate, you know, basically current data as well. At some point, my suggestion would be to add, you know, basically, there are, you know, tidal, you know, basic circulation models that run on a continuous basis. For instance, you can go into any area, be able, you know, take, you know, fetch, you know, that information, and for decision making and planning, you know, basic purposes, that's very, very useful. I assume that at some point, when I'm saying those kind of capabilities, it can be built into this, you know, and but again, requires really, you know, investment, requires, you know, excellent programmers, you know, basically to be able to do that. Difficulty with this system, I just want to basically tell you that you really need to have excellent programmers, but you also need to have excellent people, you know, like Lee Wallin and others, you know, oceanographers that, you know, knows and ins and out of, you know, the data sources. And, you know, you really need to know specifics of what comes from NSEP, what comes from LiPro, this or whatever. You need to study that, you know, and be, you know, really an expert in that. And then you pass on that knowledge, you know, to a programmer. And programmers, unfortunately, how many people I brought here from the university, I bring here, they stay for a year or two, and then Microsoft, you know, basically takes it. Then, you know, basically Google takes it, this or whatever. I cannot keep those kind of people here. So that's the challenge that basically, you know, we're going to have. people that do this kind of thing, when I send them to Copenhagen or whatever, I cannot compete with Bill Gates, basically offering them $200,000, $300,000, annual salary and that kind of thing. But they do go do gaming, this or whatever they want to do. But that's the challenge that basically in building a system like that, that we face with. But we have excellent basic technical people, and as myself and Lewa and others, start basically, retiring this or whatever, the organization needs to make sure that that continuity goes on. So that's basically kind of my time limit in terms of what I plan to say and do. But any questions about TideNet? And again, both TideNet and WaveNet, if you go and basically get rid of that dev, and my current version basically is almost like a mirror image, the replica of this. So I have a backup, So by accident, if you don't put dev, you will be probably doing the same thing. But my suggestion is to use, with the underscore, dev, both versions of the WaveNet underscore dev and TideNet underscore dev. So files are available to you. Any file that generated, you can right mouse click. By the way, in IE, when you right mouse click to a file name that generates at the bottom by any of those processors, right mouse click and say save target as. Whereas Firefox, Chrome handles, basic files, management, differently. But they are there for you. They are there for you. You can save it to any particular directory, this or whatever. I retained the files, by the way. So let's say that Jessica has went and fetched some information from, let's say, NDBC buoy, near, Hero. And that information I save and keep it, in the system. The reason I do that, sometimes these data sets are massive. And I don't want to go back and handshake and spend time. So I keep that data for a period of time, and then I run a scrubber if I get low on the disk space, on the server, so it will be gone. But temporarily, we keep that, data for a period of time, and so that the other user, in case they come, the data is there, and we can quickly, basically fetch that data. So that's the type of principle that, we use, in data management as well, so that the system is very quick and responsive to users' needs. Any suggestions, any comment, questions, and again, please send it to me and to Liwa and to Tanya, and we'll be happy basically to look at it and see what we can do, and we can come back to you as what's the best way to go about it, whether it's through a statement of needs or some other, basic special, action required and so on and that kind of thing. We welcome any comments, suggestions, again, this system basically evolved, but it evolved based on a lot of users, basic excellent comments, and someone comes and says that I'm using this, but you don't have this, or is it possible? Well, a lot of times actually we have that information there, we just don't provide it. But if there's something that, you see it, that you would like to have, but it's not part of, what I showed here, just holler, just say that, hey Turkey, can you give me this? And that kind of thing. Is it there or not there? I can tell you that, okay?
Hey Becky, this is Mitch. I have a question real quick. I saw that when you were selecting the CIRP under the TideNet, it showed you kind of had a grayed out area of...
Yeah, that's the CIRP grid. Yeah, that's the mesh that basically you have to click within that, green area.
Right.
Whereas the global ones, Le Provo and Topax, the TPXO, I don't show that because that's global, everywhere.
Right.
But
the question was,
yeah?
On the WaveNet with WaveWatch 3, there's also a grid involved. And I had some issues recently where I tried to select some
okay.
that I was
okay.
close to the shore. Is there another way that you could show the...
Yeah, let me go back to that. Yeah, there's a trick to that. See, again, WaveWatch 3 is global, but we have three grids, 30-minute arc grid 10-minute arc grid and 4-minute arc grid. So 30-minute arc grid, you didn't see it here, right? But if I click, 4-minute arc, 10-minute arc grid, it does show what what that grid covers. So 4-minute arc grid, will cover, a different area. So if you don't have any data under, let's say, 30-minute arc, you need to switch, to see if any of this, will provide you that data. I didn't show that, but good question. Yeah, I had to do that because, some of these are very, very useful, and, just because when they run, let's say 30-minute arc grid, it may not cover your area, this or whatever, but 10-minute or 4-minute arc grid, may. So you might want to, query those. With the NDVC and other sources, there used to be what we call the data query tool. You could go to, basically NOAA's website and click on a map, and it will basically, and you specify your start time, end time there as well, It used to provide you the data, for that, particular location. Well, again, because of the budget cuts, they did away with that. And our system basically was designed to that. I go to their web pages and do exactly, submit that request, and WaveNet fetches that, but we have to change the strategy. So, and same thing, is happening with the other data sources, that as changes happen, this system needs to also keep track of it, and evolve what I'm saying, So if you make a query, a data is not available, this or whatever, either you're probably missing something, not doing something right, or the source is down, the servers are down, and if you send basically email to one of us, me or Tanya, I can tell you, because I have certain privileges. I can go in and handshake and get to their servers and things like that. I can tell you if there is problem, with them. For a period of time, Great Lakes data was not available, at least for the last 6 or so months, basically. But, I had access to that, so that's why, if a district user needed something, this or whatever, I could go and fetch, data from their cloud system, and get it, but it was not available to the public. So there are ways, what I'm saying, we can provide you data. If you encounter any problem here, just holler, let us take a look at it. We probably have a way, to get the data to you, if it's not available in the system. Any other questions? Welcome any questions you may have, and just submit, those, and we'll go from there. Appreciate working with you guys. Again, thanks, and for over the 30 years, basically, and but I'll stay basically with the organization emeritus, so you'll still, basically be able to contact me for any comment, help, guidance, or whatever that you may need. Thanks so much.